Okay, why did that look weird? Um, hold on. All right, I gotta go back to check this out. Yeah, I just gotta make sure that the share screen is correct. Okay, there it is. See, I wasn't on the right one. So you guys could. Five, I believe. Best kept secret blood rituals. I like that these are about 30 minutes each.
In the 1970s, a long string of murders stunned New York City and the rest of the nation as time and time again couples out on dates were gunned down with seemingly no motive. The crime spree quickly gripped the nation's imagination when letters signed Son of Sam and a host of satanic references began to pop up at crime scenes and in reporters' mailboxes. After a year-long manhunt, police finally captured David Berkowitz, a socially withdrawn man in his 20s with satanic scrawlings all over his apartment, guns and ammunition in his car, and an enthusiastic confession to all the Son of Sam murders. But after some previous allegations and references, Berkowitz made shocking claims years later that he actually had only killed 3 of the victims, and that the others were slain by fellow members of, as he said, a satanic cult he was allegedly part of. The talk of a nationwide ring of satanic cults sounded like a far-fetched conspiracy theory back then, and it still does. But as it turns out, many of the NYPD detectives and prosecutors on the case had plenty of other doubts about Berkowitz being the only Son of Sam.
When Berkowitz was arrested in Yonkers in 1977, based on evidence that made him look more like a fall guy than the shooter who only matched one of the many eyewitness sketches from the half-dozen crime scenes, Berkowitz had left a note. This is a warning to all police agencies in the tri-state area. For your information, a satanic cult that has been established for some time has been instructed by the High Command to begin to systematically kill and slaughter young girls or people of good health and clean blood. I, David Berkowitz, have been chosen since birth to be one of the executioners for the cult.
I know you don't like talking about the so-called Son of Sam letters, but I have one question. Would I be correct in saying that those letters were a group effort rather than the work of one individual?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that was a group thing. Again, part of the role or the goal was to create an atmosphere of terror. You know, into Satanism, we felt that it was part of the thing to create that atmosphere of a terror or fear or whatever.
When journalist Maury Terry got the NYPD to reopen the investigation into other shooters, 2 of the suspected cult members were actually sons of Sam Carr, Berkowitz's neighbor and owner of the dog that supposedly told Berkowitz to kill.
I want you to go out and kill. Kill! Kill!
Berkowitz allegedly killed Sam Carr's dog, but in reality many dead German shepherds had been found for years in neighboring Untermeyer Park, where the cult had been known to operate. Before the Sons of Sam could be questioned by police, they died. But it gets more bizarre when we learn Sam Carr operated a telephone answering service from his home, and one of his clients was the Clinic of Hudson River Counseling, an associate of Wainwright House, which itself was a hub for United Nations conferences as well as Lucis Trust meetings. The Lucis Trust had helped spawn the New Age as a publisher, formerly the Lucifer Publishing Company, before finding a home at the UN.
So they were concerned that you were basically reopening the investigation, although as I understand it, Yonkers has never officially closed the investigation into the actual Son of Sam killings.
No, they didn't. They absolutely did not, because they knew there was much more to it. Because remember, I had the person that took me there long before Berkowitz was ever there, because he only got out of the military, I believe, in '74. By this time, we had developed a whole underground of information. And like I said, there were a number of investigations, very high level, and every one of them was shut down. But they all touched on this. Because you got to remember, in those days, New York City, especially Times Square and that, was a free-for-all. There were hundreds of kids there with no homes. Nobody knew who they belonged to. So it was a perfect feeding ground, you know?
Now, you said that you basically were told this was an issue of national security and it was shut down at a higher level. Why would it be classed as an issue of national security? Who was looking to protect this type of satanic activity?
Ben Rose was a pharmacist, but what I said is that when I was given the term in the street, he was known as Dr. Rockefeller. And he was supplying little boys and girls to the United Nations and that group of people. How are they going to respond to the fact that they were using kids to compromise people? You know, in the intelligence world, when you compromise somebody, you can get him to cooperate any way you want. And what we called it was human intelligence and human compromise. And this was my specialty. And we found out how big this was when I started my investigations.
But to get back to the issue of the Son of Sam shootings and that particular issue, why do you think that this cult expressed itself in a reign of terror for a year, basically, with these random shootings?
That is something I never quite found out or learned about, although it had to do with some type of ritualistic, how would you call, basis or background to it, where they were satisfying some ritualistic goal. That's the only thing that I could ever figure out.
In New York City during the Son of Sam situation, for instance, some of the people who were involved in that cult, who were involved with Berkowitz and some of the friends of Berkowitz, were people who were very wealthy. These were wealthy, in some cases, real estate tycoons, and in one case, a very famous fashion designer was very much involved as well. And these were people who had money, they had influence over a lot of people. They had influence in media, they had influence in finance, and they were very deeply involved in occult practice. And these were not fools. These were not, empty-headed people. These were people who were living, for the dollar every single day. They were earning money, they were buying and selling. They were hard-hearted, pragmatic people who simultaneously were involved in the serious study of occultism.
When you really start to explore the occult, if you approach it with logic, like a Rorschach test, it can appear a blurry mess. But if you can trust your intuition, you may begin to see synchronicities and patterns that are startling, often with connections to your own life. In the Son of Sam case, I was surprised to find that Untermeyer Park, the location of satanic rituals next to Berkowitz's apartment, was originally part of an estate called Greystone.
So that is Medusa in the center.
My first film was Greystone Park, named after the abandoned mental hospital where we ventured at night and found indications of satanic gatherings to call upon supernatural forces. The Masonic historian Manly P. Hall explains, black magic often involves conjuration and contracts with spirits.
I have met people who claimed to be Satanists, who claimed to be involved with black magic, who claimed that they not only knew a lot about it, but as I said, I've certainly never been involved, and I warn all of you, never, never, never. You will not only lose your mind, you lose your soul.
What we call lesser black magic would consist of operations within the objective universe using little known or little understood laws to influence events and behavior and perceptions. And what we call greater black magic is probably more what you're thinking of in terms of ritual or ceremonial magic, which has to do with looking into yourself to explore and refine your own concept of yourself and your soul.
You can see that the earth magic, the shamanism of the Native American Indians, especially the Hopi, they are interacting with, say, for example, the forces of the atmosphere, rain dances, sun dances, this type of thing. They are using magic, and they are using it in harmony with the seasons, and they are using it primarily to contact the spirits of their elders for guidance on general tribal life. Now, if you can imagine this pendulum swinging away from earth magic and the Native American shamanism, the opposite is Satanism. You can see two main phenomena. You can see blood ritual. This is a very, very important thing for them. And yes, it's been going on since before recorded history. But alongside that blood ritual, we can see blackmail as, if you like, a way of connecting reins to each and every one of the members in that coven. They witness and take part in a blood ritual to enter that coven.
Have you heard Ronald Bernard's testimony?
Yes, I was with him in London when we had these hearings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so you...
Yeah, this is the way they do it. I know it because they tried it with me too.
En ik kwam dus ook in die kringen. Alleen ik lachte erom, want het waren voor mij gewoon klanten. Dus ik kwam in wat ze noemden Satanskerken.
Ik wou zeggen, we hebben het nu over het satanisme.
Ja,
oké.
Ik kwam dus in Satanskerken, maar ik kwam zeg maar op route even langs, even buurten. En daar was dan op dat moment een heilige mis, hun heilige soorten mis. En dat was met blote vrouwen en wat drank en dit en dat. En ik vond het alleen maar leuk. Maar er kwam een moment, toen werd ik dus uitgenodigd, daarom vertel ik dit ook, om mee te gaan doen aan offers in het buitenland. Dat was het breekpunt. Kinderen.
Oké. Dat werd je gevraagd?
Ja, ik kon het niet.
The origin of Satanism, Luciferianism, whatever label you want to put on it, is the harnessing and exploiting of vital essence of children for the purposes of gaining power or life extension. Or a lot of people, when we looked into the research and saw all the files of the survivors, they didn't start off that way. They were blackmailed into it and forced into it.
It'll be as though she never existed.
And when I found out, and both of us knew how that blackmail was done, a lot of these people were reluctant. But if they're not participating in it specifically, they're made to look at it. Just looking at it is a form of abuse, and it's done to desensitize the self.
Not with these swain, which hither ye have brought from regions where I reign. Ye fools and priests, I spit upon your fire.
We're in Monte Rio, California, investigating the Bohemian Club. It's one of the most exclusive and secretive societies in the world. Every summer, the club holds a retreat at a place called The Grove, and many of the club are some of the richest and most powerful members of our country. We're talking about presidents, cabinet members, CEOs, generals, even Hollywood celebrities. The club has a strict policy of never revealing what goes on behind the gates of the Grove. There are a variety of stories about what happens at the meetings, including decisions about, if you want to believe this, who even gets to run for president.
Well, I snuck into Bohemian Grove 16 years ago, back in 2000, and there had been probably more than 15 different journalists from People Magazine, CBS Television, Time Magazine, you name it, who had snuck in, but been caught inside. And most of it's a bunch of, old Republicans with, their gay prostitutes having orgies. There's not a bunch of satanic stuff going on most of the time.
It's a playground for the powerful. It's a place where wealthy men from all of the United States gather for 2 weeks to relive summer camp with this ceremony called the cremation of care that begins the 2-week encampment where the body of dull care, symbolizing woes and concerns, is burned on an altar in front of a big owl statue. When that ceremony ends, they all start to cheer and yell and hand each other a beer.
And so they're there just kind of having this bohemian revelry in the woods, in the Hall of the Mountain King, as they call it, because they actually play that theme in the background, but fusing Babylonian and Egyptian and Aztec and Druid rituals together to basically have the goddess who they're worshiping pass over them and put judgment on the simulated human sacrifice that they're about to kill for the crimes they've committed. So it's a ripoff kind of the Israelites or other cultures where they would kill a ram, or in the case of, folks like the founder of the three major religions, Abraham, where he was told, kill your son, but then the angel stayed his hand. And it's clearly a serious magic ritual. The men in attendance took it very, very serious.
Bohemians and priests, the desperate call of heavy hearts is answered by the power of your fellowship. Dull care is slain.
The owls are not what they seem.
Why did you bring this to me?
I was raised in Belgium and sold into a murderous pedophile network right around my 6th birthday. I was used in this network for 5 years and a half. Adult men that were part of this exclusive club were there for various reasons, but there was a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, and the children were the commodity, the highest, the most valued commodity, and were used for sex mostly. But there were a number of aristocrats that were part of this club who also liked killing children. And then my time had come. At the age of 11, I was about to be killed. I was tortured because someone who had protected me for a while and then abused me really badly was done with me. I was strapped to a butcher's block. That was black from the blood of all the children that had come before me. I was there for a few hours. My body is full of scars, and every scar reminds me of the moment. I thought that I was going to be killed like all the children that weren't loved enough to live, and I was going to be forgotten as well, and I wasn't ready to die. Someone from inside that network loved me enough to rescue me.
The prime suspect in a case of child sexual abuse and murder that's horrified Belgium. Prosecutors say that Marc Dutroux has now confessed to leaving 2 young girls to starve to death and to kidnapping 2 others. His wife, who like her husband has been jailed before for pedophilia, is also being questioned. The hope in Brussels is that the authorities have finally cracked a major pedophile ring.
There were hundreds of people calling that they had been, that's where it started, that they had been in the most horrific networks as children, and they recognized some of these handlers being involved in the Dutroux case. And then strange things happen, where you see that, and I'm talking about 25 years ago already, you see, where you see things happening that are not possible.
In all, 20 people connected with the case had died in suspicious circumstances. Also not appearing is Regina Louf, whose police interviews in 1996 appear to support the existence of a paedophile ring involving rich clients and run by Michel Nihoul. But the police investigation into Regina's claims was halted in 1997.
We still ask ourselves the same question: why? We were just doing our work, we were objective. Why the hell did they stop us?
The Dutroux-Nihoul case proved to be a sordid affair for Belgium, as only Marc Dutroux was ultimately convicted of the abduction, rape, and murder of half a dozen young girls. But it was clear that he was part of something much bigger. Judge Jean-Marc Connereau, who helped rescue 2 of the victims, was dismissed from the case, leading to a demonstration by hundreds of thousands. He later testified that the police had known much more about Dutroux, Michel Nihoul, and the network they serviced. The file talks of seizure of children, foreign trafficking, and perhaps even of cells, if I remember well. The sum of 150,000 francs was mentioned as the price for girls. I was struck by the richness of these documents.
In terms of the Belgium network, then, how high up did that go? Did that go to the top of royalty and politics?
Yes. Those were the people. The very top of the whole society. Those were the people who were involved. And it was a system that those who wanted to get involved, who wanted to climb that social ladder, were being indoctrinated through pedophilia. So someone who would have a conscience would be out right in the beginning, because it's gradual. The indoctrination is gradual.
It's amazing how obvious. I mean, it's like the satanic nature of a lot of our foreign policy, right? The warmongering of many years. I remember Madeleine Albright was asked,
we have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
It's crazy, but look at Stalin. What did Stalin say? One death is a drama. Millions of deaths are statistics.
are our world leaders psychopaths?
Many are. Because the main thing with psychopaths and also with borderline, people who suffer from borderline personality disorder, is control. They want control.
When Eyes Wide Shut came out and they were all wearing the masks in the ceremony, that's to create disassociation. That's what it's designed for, through conditioning. The plan was to create a psycho-civilized society, done now through the big pharma, to create a society of people that is angry, resentful, vindictive, has to have power over others, has no sense of community, is self-destructive.
In my mother's case, she had been exposed to enough at a high level aspect of things to have compartmentalized memory. When a person has compartmentalized memory, they have no continuity of thought. They have no awareness of what just happened. They therefore have no concept of time. They don't have an ability to be in control of their own mind and life. And in my mother's case, it was exactly that way. In my case, it was a little more extreme where my daughter Kelly was concerned. I couldn't protect her at all because I couldn't even protect myself from mind control. With no continuity of thought, there's no ability to stand up for anything that you believe in. And ultimately, that's what mind control of a whole nation does too, is it starts eroding the ability to take a stand, to stand with for the moral aspect of society.
Mind control was the stuff Mengele and the Nazis were doing. What Aquino specifically did was, called mind construction. It's probably easier to give as an example. One that I give is, with this pandemic, they'll say, if you want to be a good citizen, if you're globally minded, you'll wear a mask. And because you care about your elderly neighbors, you care about the safety of the people around you.
I wear a mask to ensure the safety of the people around me. I wear a mask for you.
Well, so, your will, maybe I don't want to wear a mask, I'm not going to wear a mask.
A bloody fight erupts after a woman in Manhattan Beach throws coffee at a man not wearing a mask.
On a Southwest Airlines flight, and according to witnesses, centered around passengers who were not wearing masks over their nose.
But now what they've done is they've appealed to your ethical and your moral constructs. And so you think, if I don't wear a mask, then I'm not being a good person. And it displays that I don't care about my neighbors. I don't care about their life or their death. So, what is your will going to do? You want to be a good person. You want others to know that you care about them, that you care about life and death. So you're going to wear a mask.
The rule is very simple. Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do.
Here you go. Continue to wear a mask.
Good luck, guys. It's a breeze.
I think there's just like a COVID fatigue. So like whenever a new story comes up, they're going to latch onto it. They've already announced in our office that once the public will be open to it, we're going to start focusing mainly on climate, like global warming, and like that's going to be our next like I don't know, like what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be our focus. Like our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
I think it's going to be just like a lot of like fear, like climate.
Yeah, fear sells.
One control mechanism is through manipulation. So although they can't say you have to do this, they can feed into our systems fear and subconscious, programming and these kind of things, so that we only have one choice in front of us, and it's feed into the matrix. It's feed into the system. It's be in fear all the time, which feeds into their paradigm. We've allowed this to happen because we didn't know that there was another reality we could experience.
There are some who say that evil doesn't exist, or it cannot be explained. It's a mental defect, or it's cultural. But if we study the history of occultism and why it continues to fascinate, we cannot discount possession, black magic, and satanic beliefs to explain certain things.
Are there cases in which a possession is not obvious?
Yes,
I would imagine there are many where the spirit has simply won and is in firm control. I would think that the people who come to you are those who are sort of in the middle of a giant battle.
That's right. When you find some, the typical things of somebody throwing themselves on the ground or cursing and spitting and protesting and defecating, urinating and all sorts of protest. What they're doing is protesting, saying, help me.
Yes.
Help me. The perfectly possessed, we call them, the perfectly possessed, are those that are completely at peace. And I've known several of the perfectly possessed, and I avoid them like the pest.
But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human, still.
When my father would manifest his devil spirit, and usually when he wanted to kill someone or perform some other satanic ritual, they let the entity take over their bodies. So the vibe coming off of them totally changes to an archon. Totally, and it's child-killing, pedophile, mass murderer, total evil. It is so evil, so vicious, that it's jaw-dropping. And my father's eyes would flash black, solid black, when he would switch to the archonic energy.
All demons are essentially elemental entities that feed off human suffering, human failing, human foibles. We are a food source. We're a cattle to them. They need us to exist. For that reason, all demons that we acknowledge within the occult inventory of diabology are entities that would never dream of exterminating humanity. They need humanity to thrive in order to feed off its corruption and those elements of humanity which fail.
Look at his hands and his feet. Oh, God!
God is dead! Satan lives! The year is won!
They came across the book, The Franklin Cover by John Buchanan. And it was this horrific affidavit by Paul Bonacci about how he was in Bohemian Grove, or a Bohemian Grove type place. And they made a snuff movie of him and another small boy. And this guy came in and raped both of them and then shot the head off this little boy.
Wasn't the allegation that Hunter S. Thompson was involved in filming that snuff film?
That's what was really strange. It said The filmmaker was H.S. Thompson, according to Paul Bonacci.
I like to kill.
And when you say kill, you're talking about what, neighbors? What?
We don't want to talk about shooting people, do we?
No, but you're teasing when you say you like to kill, right?
Yeah.
So it begins to make you wonder that he made a statement one time. He said, the best way I could cover corruption is to dive into it. And he said, I wouldn't recommend this, but drugs and alcohol help me. I just started seeing clips of the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when he was, some guy told him to take this stuff. It's called adrenochrome.
What is this shit? That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer, man. Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome? The adrenochrome connection certainly would indicate that he was onto something, right? The fact that someone gave him adrenochrome, and then he talks about shape-shifting. He sees like reptilian creatures, right? He sees that some humans are not humans and they look like reptiles.
I was right in the middle of a fucking reptile zoo. And somebody was giving booze to these goddamn things. It won't be long now before they tear us to shreds.
Okay, we have one more to go, so let's check out chapter 6. There's a lot of good stuff in that, though.